Greetings everyone, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live for this Sunday, January 16th, 2022. So, we've had a pretty eventful week this week, not least of which in my local neck of the woods is the fact that we actually here in Charlotte, North Carolina, have gotten snow. Now that's a pretty uncommon thing here. We get snow every couple of years, but you can see it in Benucam playing on our satellite Earth Views live stream. But yeah, so we got, it's more like ice chips and like sleet, little ice balls than it is actual snow. But you know, there's a couple inches out there, and it's been gradually coming down all day. I went out there with my kids earlier, got the sniffles, and got my fingers practically frostbitten off. But there it is. Now I have some good news for the channel, and that is, if I can find my webcam, something arrived that I've been waiting for quite some time. It is my 100K subscriber YouTube play button, and I wanted to do a unboxing for you live because I'm not really an unboxing channel, but because the entire reason for this thing's existence is you guys, I figured it would be appropriate. See if I can do this without injuring myself or having the thing drop off and fall on the floor like those iPhone unboxing videos. So, got some tape here. Tape on the bottom. Let me see what's going on. All right, there we go. So I've had this for a few days, but I haven't opened it because I was waiting for SpaceWeek. Got a little foam cover here. All right, let's see here. Some 100,000 subscribers. This is a letter from YouTube I'm reading here. Just how far have you come? If each of your subscribers were a light year, they could take you from one side of the Milky Way to the other. That's far. Thank you for the clarification. I wonder if they customized that message because I'm a space channel? And that's why today, we're so excited to celebrate your special YouTube journey with you. Not only have you brought a unique voice and style to the world, you've also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. That's y'all. In that spirit, YouTube is proud to present you with the Silver Creator Award, which celebrates your hard work and incredible achievement. Congratulations on this amazing milestone, just one of many that we hope will follow in the future. After all, there are countless others out there who have yet to discover your passion and dedication. Whether they come to your channel to learn something new or just for a laugh, a whole new audience is waiting for you to inspire them, just as your growing community continues to inspire you, as you do. Thank you. We can't wait to see what you do next, and we'll be with you every step of the way. Yours sincerely, Susan Wojcicki, CEO, YouTube. And, is this an actual, I can't tell. I think it may be a printed signature. I was trying to see if it was an actual pen on paper, because YouTube has a lot of 100K channels. So, let me just set this over here. It's on the floor. Okay, and here we are, retaining it so that it doesn't fall. Let me take it out of the packaging. There's like hair on it, or maybe that's hair from me. Wow, that's real shiny. Presented to Raw Space for passing 100,000 subscribers. Oh, look. You can see yourselves. Pretty cool. I'll be putting this in the background somewhere. It's pretty light. The whole thing it's quite light. It's got little mounting holes in the back. That's a very attractive button, I must say. So, thank you all for being a part of this. I actually surpassed 100,000 subscribers more than 7 months ago, but it took them a little while to get the, to go through the process of figuring out that I had surpassed that milestone and, preparing my play button. But thank you to YouTube and thank you to all of you. Okay, so moving on. Let's see. Yes. Let's start out with, this is Benucam. All right. Let's start out with a Webb update. 22 days after launch, the James Webb Space Telescope is 1.3 million kilometers from Earth, about 90% of the way to its destination, a halo orbit around the Sun-Earth L2 Lagrange point. Due to the pull of gravity from the Earth and the Sun, it has slowed down to just 271 meters per second, and it will continue to slow down until it performs its orbit insertion burn in about 7 days' time. Since Webb's complex deployment sequence was completed last week, and for another 6 days or so, ground controllers have been adjusting the positions of the telescope's individual mirror segments in preparation for alignment operations once the telescope is orbiting L2. You can see here they have a live view. If you go to Where is Webb, what's the URL? It's let's see, what is it? jwst.nasa.gov. Just search for Where is Webb and you'll find it. But here you see the individual deployment adjustments of all of the hexagonal mirror segments, as well as the secondary mirror, which is the parabolic mirror on the tripod that sits in front of the telescope. Now, here is a short video from NASA explaining the process. I'll go ahead and leave you with some music because their music is, of course, copyrighted. Now, like it said, so right now what they're doing is they're deploying the mirror segments, and then the alignment of the mirror segments will happen once Webb is orbiting L2. The alignments will begin about 40 days after it arrives, and it will take about 5 months until they actually finish the alignment process. So back here on Earth, last Thursday, SpaceX launched their third transporter mission, spraying a swarm of more than 100 small, micro, and nano satellites into polar orbit.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Gear pressures are nominal.
Now we got a rare treat this time because they actually landed the first stage booster back on the landing pad on land. There was a lot of occurrences of land, but yeah, they actually landed back on land instead of out at sea on the drone ship.
As we just heard there,
Stage 1, entry burn shutdown.
everything continuing to look good with second stage. As I mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to recover this booster for the 10th time today, and we're targeting a land landing at landing zone 1. The first stage has just one more burn left, the landing burn.
Yes, it's safe.
It begins just before touchdown and provides the booster a soft descent before landing. About the same time that Falcon lands, we are expecting SECO, or second engine cutoff, 1 of our second stage. Just a few seconds away from landing.
Stage 1 is transonic.
Vehicles traveling around 900 miles per hour. Really puts the deceleration into perspective. In the span of less than a minute, we'll have reduced from twice the speed of a jet
Stage 1 landing burn.
all the way down to 0 as the rocket lands. There's a view on the right-hand side.
Stage 2 in terminal guidance.
Of the landing, back at landing zone 1.
Stage 1 landing light deployed.
Flawless. It's a toasty-looking rocket. It's been up there 10 times now. And this was for a production mission. Usually they're very veteran rockets they reserve for Starlink missions. But now, the reception was not great for the numerous satellite deployments, but all the payloads got where they were supposed to go.
Kepler 17, separation confirmed. Lemur 2, separation confirmed. Superdove, separation confirmed. Aurora Tech, separation confirmed.
Everything deployed successfully, so good job, SpaceX, as always. Later that same day, Virgin Orbit air-launched their Launcher 1 rocket in a mission dubbed Above the Clouds, deploying several satellites into low Earth orbit for the U.S. Department of Defense, NASA, Polish-based Sat Revolution, UK-based Steamjet Space Systems. SteamSat literally has water-fueled thrusters, which is an interesting idea. For those of you not familiar, Launcher 1 is launched from under the wing of a Boeing 747 called Cosmic Girl. It was one of Virgin Atlantic's first planes back in the 70s. It's a venerable aircraft. Although capable of taking off from anywhere in the world, there's a sufficiently long runway there, that is. Their missions thus far have all launched from the Mojave Air and Spaceport in California. They fly in a racetrack circuit over the Pacific off the California coast, pitch up steeply, and then drop Launcher 1 from beneath the wing. The RP-1 LOX-fueled engine ignites and carries the payloads the rest of the way to orbit. The coverage left something to be desired, and although they had a NASA chase plane nearby, we didn't get to see the view, or at least they haven't yet released the view from either the chase plane or from Cosmic Girl, the 747. We did get this potato cam view from the rocket, though, which delivered its payloads successfully. So congrats, Virgin, on a successful mission. The most dramatic news this week, surely, came from the Pacific island nation of Tonga, where an undersea volcano erupted on Saturday, spewing a plume of ash up to 20 kilometers into the air, which spread out over hundreds of kilometers. In this still frame from NOAA's GOES West satellite, orbiting 35,000 kilometers over the eastern Pacific in geostationary orbit, we see New Zealand off to the left, relatively unobscured by clouds, and the spreading ash plume looking like a nuclear blast in the foreground. The volcano is named Hongatonga Honga Ha'apai, after the two islands which used to form either side of the rim of its caldera, whereas the core of its caldera remained underwater. The islands have only existed since 2009, when a previous eruption piled up enough lava to breach the surface, which of course cooled, hardened, and became the islands, which now reach, I think, 400 feet high, something like that. The eruption caused a mild to moderate tsunami up to about 4 feet or 1.3 meters high to spread across the Pacific, inundating homes in Tonga and triggering tsunami warnings from California to Alaska to Japan. The blast also caused an atmospheric pressure wave, which was clearly visible from space. It spread out in an ever-expanding circle, being detected by barometric pressure monitors thousands of miles away in Japan and the US. Yesterday I put together a video compilation of satellite time-lapses of the eruption. If you haven't seen it already on my channel, I'll play it for you here. It's just a couple of minutes long. That was fun. Looking ahead to this week, let's see. Tomorrow, Monday, January 17th at 7:26 p.m. Eastern, 026 UTC on the 18th, SpaceX launches their 35th batch of Starlink satellites and the 6th batch with the new Laser Link system, which will be active soon, according to Elon Musk. They'll be launching from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. So you Floridians, that'll be after sunset, 7:26 p.m. You might get a really excellent view of the exhaust plume if it's still illuminated by the sun up at altitude, which it should be. Later today, which I forgot to mention, is a Long March C launch out of China at 9:40 p.m. Eastern, 0240 UTC. And again, as with most Chinese launches, there will not be live coverage. And in fact, the payload is unknown. It's not specified due to the lack of transparency in that that space agency. Also tomorrow, Monday, is a full moon. The official exact time of the full moon is 6:48 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you have clear skies, get your scopes out, get your binoculars, and check out the full moon. Then on Wednesday, January 19th, starting at 6 a.m. Eastern, 11 UTC, is the 51st Russian ISS spacewalk to continue outfitting the new Nauka laboratory module. Our spacewalking cosmonauts this time will be Anton Shkaplerov and Pyotr Dubrov. The spacewalk is scheduled to begin 1 hour after the broadcast starts and will last about 7.5 hours. And I believe the Russians consider the beginning of the spacewalk to be when the outer hatch is opened, as opposed to the American spacewalks, which consider their start to be when the spacewalks switch to internal. I mean, when the EMU spacesuits switch to internal power. Then on Friday, at a time yet to be determined, that's January 21st, at a time to be determined, we're expecting the launch of a ULA Atlas V with the USS F8 mission. On board will be 2 satellites for the U.S. Space Force's Geosynchronous Space Situational Awareness Program, or GSSAP. The satellites will be deployed into orbits slightly above and below the geosynchronous orbital shell, and will help the U.S. military track and observe objects in geosynchronous orbit. Atlas will fly in the 511 configuration, with a 5-meter fairing, 1 solid rocket booster, and single-engine Centaur upper stage. Also on Friday, at 10:15 a.m. Eastern, 15:15 UTC, is coverage of the undocking of SpaceX Cargo Dragon CRS-24 from the ISS. CRS-24 will have been docked to the ISS for just 3.5 weeks, quite a bit shorter than the usual time of at least a couple of months. Like all cargo dragons, it will splash down safely and be recovered. Returning to Earth on board Dragon will be the hydrogen dome, one of the components of the oxygen generation system that was replaced back in October. The unit will be tested and refurbished for future use. The urine processing assembly distillation assembly, who comes up with these names? This one will also be evaluated and refurbished as a spare for future use. The Total Organic Carbon Analyzer, after 7 years of operation, assessing the organic carbon levels of reclaimed water on the ISS. The CO2 relative humidity sample containers. I'll just read the description verbatim because it kind of went over my head. Upgraded shuttle-era grab sample container technology that has been modified to collect payload samples and support critical exploration development objectives with thermal amine and 4-bed carbon dioxide removal technology demonstrations. Okay? Carbon dioxide removal I understand, but not a whole lot else. And finally, rodent research transporters, which will be refurbished and used for future rodent studies. There's no word on whether any actual critters will be in them. I'm guessing probably not, which prompts the question, where did they go? They're probably in a garbage bag stowed in a Progress cargo craft, would be my guess. So that's actually it for the oh, hello, it refreshed. That's actually it for the coming week. Got some stuff going on, but yeah, I hope to see you in those live streams. In the meantime, I'd like to take a moment to thank and welcome our new channel members, SirJeffrey, Claude, and Edu Dome. I presume that's how it's pronounced. I suppose it could be Edu Dome. Maybe it's Latin, but members. But yes, I'll call it Edu Dome. Now let's get to your questions. What have you got for me? All right. Today, Tig, aka Tig Rayhoff, asks, does Bennu like the snow? That's funny you should ask. So he was curious about the snow. He's seen snow falling before, last year, but he's never seen it accumulated on the ground. This is, after all, North Carolina. I don't live in the mountains, and snow is a pretty rare thing. But he was very curious about the snow on the ground. He was looking out of every window he could, going from window to window. One of my kids wanted to go outside and goof around in the snow. They wanted me to come with them. So I still had my PJs on, but I put on some old boots that are falling apart and a jacket and went out there. They wanted me to bring Bennu, and I was nervous about that because Bennu's an indoor cat, and I mean he has his claws, but the one time he got out of the house a long time ago, he tried to get away from me. He was scared, and he was actively like retreating away from me, and I only caught him because he got cornered by the back fence of my old house. But that was scary, and so I don't want to risk possibly losing my cat, because I don't know if he'd come back. I mean, you just never know. You know, some people are lucky and they have pets that stick right by their side or that come back reliably, but you just never know. Well, I've also had dogs that if you ever took their leash off would just bolt at breakneck speed straight away from you, and you'd never be able to catch them. But anyway, I figured I could exert my manly powers over Bennu and restrain him if he got fussy. So I tried to carry him into the backyard just to introduce him to the snow. I didn't even get through the door before he freaked out, and within a period of about 0.5 seconds, he had slashed open my chest and my neck. You can't see it, but I have like 5 scratches, a puncture on my chest, and then a scratch on my neck, and he jumped really back into the house. So that experiment was a big fail, but lesson learned, and once again a reminder of the fact, the universal truth, that cats will always win. You can't will a cat into doing anything. But oh well. In any case, I did wash it, so hopefully I don't get sick from the scratches. Let's see. Do I have a pronunciation for this Russian name? No. I can't. There's a Russian individual asks, what do you think about the volcano eruption in the Pacific? Well, I mean, volcanoes erupt. Well, there are volcanoes erupting all the time, but not usually in such spectacular fashion. It's been said that this may be the largest explosion ever witnessed from space. And although I haven't seen any numbers on estimates of the, equivalent yield in tons of megatons of TNT, of this eruption, it was a big one. And fortunately, it's in a very sparsely populated part of the Pacific. The island nation of Tonga has less than 200,000 total residents, and I haven't heard of any deaths from the the tsunamis or otherwise. Although communications with much of the populated areas in Tonga were disrupted after the eruption. So, but hopefully everyone there is okay. I think that volcanoes are fascinating. They are kind of scary, but geologic processes always intrigue me because, especially catastrophic ones, because they're just so amazing to look at. We're talking about magma under the crust of Earth that is being spewed up out of the ground, and then in the form of lava and ash and rock. And I grew up in Oregon. That's my home state, and I was alive barely when Mount St. Helens erupted. Unfortunately, I was only 4 years old. So, but my dad at the time he drove us up to Portland to see it, and I don't remember seeing it, but it was far enough away that we were safe, but it was still a unique opportunity. So kudos to him for thinking of that. I just wish that I could remember it, because it's not likely that here in North Carolina I'm ever going to have the chance to see another volcano erupt, unless Yellowstone goes, in which case we're all going to be toast anyway. But let's see. Denise Campbell says, "Hey guys, congratulations Raw Space on the silver button. This truly is one of the best space channels on YouTube." Well, thank you very much, Denise, for your kind words. They are greatly appreciated. In a similar vein, Fondage says, "Congrats on the silver button, Raw Space. You have worked hard and still work hard on your channel, dude. Much love. Peace." Well, peace to you too. And again, thank you. Yeah, lately it's been kind of rough. I actually had, maybe the first time in a long time, a net loss of subscribers over the past 28 days, which is highly unusual. And that's either shame on me, shame on YouTube, or something. But yeah, I'm going to be trying even harder to give you content that's both compelling and interesting, and hopefully the YouTube algorithm realizes that, because the viewer numbers haven't been quite what they used to be, but hopefully they pick back up at some point. Tell your friends. Mark Desire, moderator extraordinaire, asks, "Maybe you can explain what the mice are on the rocket engines." So these names that people come up with for things that are silly or fantastical or speculative, they drive me nuts. Like instead of a lunar eclipse, people call it a blood moon, or instead of whatever, they call them mice. Like they see something moving on the rocket engine of a Falcon 9 during a launch broadcast, and they're like, "Oh, it's a mouse." No, it's not a mouse. The rocket is in space. What you're seeing actually is up above the Merlin vacuum engine on a Falcon 9 upper stage is an oxygen vent. As you know, the Merlin is fueled by RP1, which is refined kerosene, and liquid oxygen, kept at cryogenic, very cold temperatures, very cold chilled oxygen, and that is always the oxygen is always trying to warm up, because nothing is as cold as the oxygen. So as it warms up, it sublimates into well, as it warms up, it vaporizes, I should say, into gas. And gas expands. Therefore, they are constantly needing to vent that oxygen, lest it develop too much pressure and rupture the tanks, which they don't want to happen. So there's a vent for oxygen above the engine. Now, because of the peculiarities of the states of matter in a vacuum, liquids, there are precious few liquids of any kind that can exist in a vacuum not because of the temperature, but because of the pressure. At 0 bar of pressure, oxygen goes from a gas straight to a solid. And the form that this takes is in the form of these sort of fluffy balls of oxygen. Sometimes they look like strings or fluffy snowballs of oxygen, and that's what, so what they do is this fluff ball of solid oxygen accumulates on the outside of the vent, and due to the vibrations of the rocket as it's firing, they break off of the vent, and also due to a break in surface tension of the oxygen crystals, or the oxygen material just losing its contact with the rest of the oxygen, breaks off in various different shapes and forms. Now, on the business end of the rocket, on the bottom side of the nozzle, obviously, there's a great deal of heat being propelled in downwards. But at the top of the engine, it's nice and frosty cold in a vacuum. So that fluff ball of oxygen sort of gets trapped at the top of the engine, and it sort of floats around due to the vibrations of the rocket. And that's what we see. That's what these mice are that people refer to, is just little fluffy blobs of oxygen that are floating around the top of the nozzle of the Merlin engine. So there you go. That's the explanation. Let's see. Sam Patton, how many missions before retirement? If we're referring to Falcon 9. So I'm not sure if their max number of reflights for a Falcon 9 is still 10, or if they've launched a booster for an 11th time yet. But it's either 10 or 11. And their original stated goal was to refly the boosters up to 10 times. But SpaceX is ever flexible, so they will, I'm sure, continue to reuse the boosters so long as they check them out and assess them to be ready for work. They may not use them for beyond the 10th flight. They may just use them for Starlink rather than for customer payloads. But I guess we shall see. But nominally, about 10 missions is the goal for booster reuse. Evgeny Myasnikov. Evgeny Myasnikov. There we go. Now it lands on a drone ship this week. Most Falcon 9 launches do land the first stage booster on a drone ship. This past one with the Transporter 3 mission was exceptional because they did bring it back to land. Now they need more fuel in order to bring the payload back to the land site, as opposed to sort of ballistically arcing it to a drone ship waiting 100 miles offshore or thereabouts. So it all depends on the mass of the payload and the mission parameters as to whether or not they can, include enough fuel to do the boost back burn to get the booster back to land. But I think this next mission will probably be landing on a drone ship, because that's normally what they do. Wafikiri says, was it Toba that almost extinguished mankind 76,000 years ago? the volcano Toba. I don't know much about Toba. You hear a lot about Krakatoa because that was fairly contemporary in the geologic time scale. It was practically yesterday. It was the mid 1800s, 1850s, I think, that Krakatoa erupted. But as far as Toba, I have heard that was a very large eruption, but I haven't actually read very much on it. I should, though, because I find geology quite fascinating. Iwo Wizanowski says, is the Poisk airlock depressurized like the Quest airlock? I'm not familiar with the depressurization mechanism of the Russian airlocks, but obviously with any airlock, you do have to evacuate the airlock of air prior to opening the outer hatch whenever you're having a spacewalk. The Russian systems are different than the American systems. They build their own stuff. They are, like wherever there has to be an interface between a Russian system and an American system, they need an adapter. Such as where the Russian ISS segment module joins to the ISS, the international or American ISS module. As far as the Russian airlocks, I think that they probably operate in a very similar, if not identical, fashion, because the Russians are not known for spearheading bold new designs for systems that work. So it's probably just a new iteration of basically the same thing. Let's see. Evgeny asks, SpaceX Dragon cargo? Yeah, so if as you may recall, there was the original SpaceX Dragon 1, or Dragon, which was a cargo-only craft, and it did not have an autonomous docking capability. It had to be grappled by the Canadarm2 robotic arm on the station, and then berthed to a berthing port. Whereas Dragon 2 is basically a space frame, if you want to call it that, like an airframe, that encompasses both the Crew Dragon, which has been delivering crew to the space station for the last couple of years, and the Cargo Dragon, the Dragon 2 Cargo is, I think, the official name, which is the version 2 of the Cargo Dragon. And this one, the Dragon 2 spacecraft vehicle design, does have autonomous docking capability. The Crew Dragon obviously has seats and touch screens and things like that, whereas the Cargo Dragon lacks that, but it still has all the navigation systems, and it has the ability to dock itself to the appropriate docking port on the ISS. So Cargo Dragon 2, or Dragon 2 Cargo, and Crew Dragon are both the same vehicle frame, essentially, with slight modifications. Well, not slight, but with modifications appropriate to their mission. The Cargo Dragon being optimized for cargo, the Crew Dragon being optimized for crew. Dan Todd asks, has the Astra launch out of Canaveral been scrubbed? This Tuesday, I hadn't read, my bad eyesight. Okay, so Astra was scheduled for a launch was it supposed to be out of Canaveral, not Kodiak Island? Because previously the Astra launches had been from Kodiak Island in Alaska. I hadn't actually read that this one was going to be from Canaveral, but I suppose that is possible. In any case, so far as I am aware, the Astra launch has been delayed until the 31st, unless that's simply a placeholder. And because sometimes the launch schedule websites, whenever they're not sure of the date of a launch, they move it out to the end of the month. But yeah, I believe the Astra launch has been delayed. And I'll have to do a little closer reading to see if that one is in fact flying out of Florida rather than Alaska, because that'd be a big step forward for Astra, since they haven't launched from there yet. Denise Campbell, referring to Benu's attack on my person when I tried to introduce him to the snow. She said, "Claws, don't you mean ninja mittens, raw space?" Yeah, Benu definitely has some ninja mittens. He doesn't usually hurt me, but when a cat is panicked, all bets are off. Tig asks, has there been any more footage of the Chinese space station? There haven't been any more like live broadcasts like the spacewalks they did a while back that I'm aware of, but there has been some additional footage that has been posted by the Sci News channel of, what was it? I don't know, crew operations or something, but nothing earth-shattering. I don't think there have been any more spacewalks since the ones a few months ago. But it's tough to get a lot of information about the Chinese space station because most of the news about it is in Chinese. So, which there's not a whole lot of overlap between Chinese websites and non-Chinese websites by design. So, but any information that y'all do come across, go ahead and drop it in Discord, and which I have a link, and that way we can be aware of it. The Space News channel in Discord would be ideal for that sort of thing. Let's see. Tom Darko says, is it true that space smells like burnt steak? Well, at least according to a couple of astronauts, something along those lines. I mean, space is mostly a vacuum. It's a very pure vacuum. It's not, there's still particles. There's still lots of particles of stuff in space, but they're much more sparsely distributed than, say, in our atmosphere. Whereas you may have a few 100,000 atoms in a cubic centimeter of low Earth orbit. Just guesstimating, you have billions of particles per cubic centimeter in the actual atmosphere. So, and as you're trying to create a vacuum, like in a vacuum chamber, it becomes increasingly difficult to achieve a harder and harder vacuum because you simply have no easy way to because in order to get the particles out, you need other particles to bump into the particles, but there are few enough particles that they're not bumping into each other. So it's actually very hard to achieve a very pure vacuum, especially in a large space like a spacecraft testing chamber or whatever. But it's been theorized that the burnt steak smell is due to basically the radiation exposure of the ISS and the spacesuits and other materials that are then coming into the airlock and being able to release those smells into the air as the airlock is pressurized. But yeah, I mean, if you go on a spacewalk and come into the airlock, chances are it's going to smell like burnt steak or something along those lines, because it's basically crispy from the sun. Evgeny asks, do you remember about mission to Jupiter Trojan asteroids? Interesting which place it passes now. Let's see, Trojan asteroids was the Lucy mission, wasn't it? Which launched, 3 months ago, something like that? Because DART launched in December, and I think Lucy was 1 or 2 months before that. Yeah, that is on its way. I'm not sure how far Lucy is from Earth, but it'll take a while to get to the destination. Unfortunately, outer solar system missions take quite some time to reach their mission objectives. But That's why we have to have patience, and hopefully once Lucy gets out there, she'll provide some excellent data for us. Denise Campbell, Zaragoza. That was one of the abort landing sites options for the shuttle on launch, right? I don't specifically remember Zaragoza. I'm not sure where that is, but I know that there were a number of alternate landing sites for the shuttle. They usually in remote locations, long runways in the desert, places like that. But they have to have an assortment of alternate landing sites, in the case of contingencies with the mission, so that they can land in different parts of the world. But specifically Zaragoza, I don't remember that. Mark Desert asks, can't remember if the Jovian asteroids at L4 are Trojans and at L5 are Greeks, or the other way around. Yeah, I don't specifically recall. I mean, just a simple Google image lookup for Jupiter Trojans will I'm sure yield the answer. But yeah, they at least they named them something easy to remember. Not well, although my memory is still failing me, but not like these wacky names they keep coming up with for asteroids that are discovered by the Hawaiian observatories, Oumuamua, etc., etc. But now we've got the Hungatonga volcano, and I'm not going to try to say the full name again. Okay, so any more questions? All right. Oh, Zaragoza in Spain. Okay. All right. So thank you all so much for coming and continuing to support your local streamer. But take care this week. I hope to see you in the next live stream, which should be Falcon 9 tomorrow. And until then, keep it raw and peace out.